Greetings, family. Empress D in nature. I hope everybody's getting out in nature, even though I'm in one mosquito haven today. It rained and now they're taking liberty. But it's okay, family. They're not going to run me from my spot. I hope everybody's well. I'm sorry if it's noisy here, family. But this is like an open area where the mosquitoes are less dense. Anytime you're close to any bush, they're always lurking there. So I have to be in an open space like this to avoid them. So family, what I wanted to talk about today is the term cognitive dissonance. So now recently in my algorithm, in my YouTube algorithm, it's showing me videos about cognitive dissonance. And we've talked about cognitive dissonance on this channel before, family, but my recent exposure to the topic has inspired me to address it here. Whew. So family, what is cognitive dissonance? It is when there is incongruency or misalignment between a person's between a person's beliefs and their behavior and the information that they absorb. Okay, so I hope everybody understands what I mean by that. So when I say misalignment, I mean that they are not the same. So, or they need to be the same. So in cognitive dissonance, there is one or two that are off from the other, okay? And within those three different subjects, basically, that I said, are not subjects, but you know what I mean, parameters in terms of how we perceive and actually how our reality is shaped, right? Because our perception shapes our reality. So essentially, our beliefs, let's use an example so we can make it clear. Let's say on using a mask to protect you from infections. Okay, let's use that as the example. Okay, and so one can be of the belief that a mask wearing a mask keeps you from catching a respiratory infection, and it also keeps you from passing a respiratory infection. Okay, that is the belief. The behavior, right, or the actions would be to wear a mask, right? And the information would be, you know, whatever information you've received, likely from the mainstream media and our wonderful governments. So that is an example of like how one would perceive masking, right? So we spoke about their belief, the behavior, and the information. Now, let's say that same individual with that present belief was sent a YouTube video from their friend, and this YouTube video went over several studies that demonstrated that wearing a mask does not stop transmission of respiratory infections, right? And so that is that new information that individual took in. Now, when they take that in, there's a brief moment of cognitive dissonance. What does cognitive dissonance cause? It causes a physical discomfort. Whether that discomfort is within our mind, our psyche, our body, it's a discomfort that most of us, we don't like. It doesn't feel good. And so in order to alleviate that discomfort, we engage in something called cognitive dissonance. So that person would have to disregard that new information, saying, oh, it's a conspiracy theory, or having to just push it away or make it somehow discredit it in order for there not to be that cognitive dissonance, that physical discomfort of not having all three of those parameters in alignment. I hope that makes sense, family, right? And so there's an Aesop's fable. Shout out to Dr. Ramani, because her video was one of the ones. Dr. Ramani is a psychologist who's really famous for her insight on narcissistic behavior. And I saw a video of her speaking about cognitive dissonance, and she shared this Aesop's fable that I haven't heard before, that illustrates the example of cognitive dissonance. And so the fable goes like this. There was a fox that saw a juicy bunch of grapes hanging where just out of his reach, or not just out of his reach, but out of his reach. And so this fox, you know, as bossy as he is, said, okay, I'm going to get that. And so this fox did everything. He jumped, he did all kinds of ways, tried his very best to get this juicy looking, hanging bunch of grapes just outside of all of his efforts' reach, okay? And so at the end, when it was obvious that he wasn't going to be able to get those grapes, in order to cope with the failure, the fox convinced himself that, I didn't even want those grapes anyway because they're probably sour, right? So he had to tell himself that in order to cope with the fact that he was not getting those grapes, right? And that fable illustrates how people twist up their mind and tell themselves anything in order to satisfy that feeling, that uncomfortable feeling that arises when what is being put in front of them is not in alignment with what they tell themselves, right? In order to be comfortable. Another way that people satiate themselves to dull that cognitive dissonance is in substances, right? Whether it's, you know, like illicit substances or not even illegal substances, indulging in them to numb and escape. Or in other ways of escape, right? Like serial dating and like always having to hang out with your friends, like always having to do something, not wanting to spend time with yourself. Those are all ways that people satiate that discomfort of cognitive dissonance, right? I think that it's a really, you know what, like this is a term that we really need to become familiar with and really examine it, because not even just individually, but globally, like globally, we are living in some kind of weird cognitive dissonance. We have to be to be able to function. The masses, I would say, you have to tell yourself, no, everything is normal, in order to just keep going in this reality, knowing that what's going on around us is completely wrong, right? Man, we're in, so mental health, we're in a tough place mentally, family. But hey, there's, you know, it all starts with just doing one thing to, you know, get to know yourself, you know, one thing to get to know yourself or to better yourself. There's a bee that's on my thing. Hi, bee. By the way, my name means honeybee, and honeybees are actually healers, right? And I didn't know that until a couple of years ago. Like I didn't do the correlation and how and the bee still, hi bee, you guys can't see it, but there's a bee right hanging out with me. But yeah, honeybees are healers, and they apparently, there's this therapy that you put this tube into a hive, and at the other end of the tube, the person, obviously there's a mask, and the person breathes in the air from the hive, and it actually cures a lot of respiratory inflammatory conditions. Family bees are healing. And guess what? My name means honeybee. So hey, family. There's a synchronicity. Anyway, that's what's up. I just wanted to talk about cognitive dissonance and encourage everybody to be familiar with that term and to see how it may apply in areas of your life. And it doesn't have to be that way, because life is so much more peaceful when your beliefs and your behavior, your actions, and the information that you put in and put out are in alignment, are in congruency, right? That's how I live, right? You're not going to catch me saying something different than acting in a different way, right? Everything is in alignment for me, and it's such a peaceful place to be. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this message, family. I love and I value each and every one of you. One love.